Call the meeting to order. Everyone would please stand. Ms. Robertson will do the invocation.
Let us pray. Lord, we ask your blessings upon our meetings tonight. We ask your special blessing upon our community. Let those of us who are here tonight make decisions that are wise for our citizens, and let our citizens enjoy a good life. In your name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Would you join me in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome everyone tonight. Our county commissioner is here. Is he glad the race is over? Okay. Item number 5 is approval of the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Mayor, I think we have some changes. Jasmine, if you'll help me out. I believe under the consent agenda, we would ask that you remove approval of the June 19th minutes.
Which one?
19th, June 19th, August 4th, and September 8th. When we get to that, actually, we may pull those off and ask you to move those to items removed from consent, because we do have a change to June the 9th and June 24th, and the 24th has been handed out at your individual seats. And then we also have added, at Councilman Moore's request, other agenda items, and we've listed those as he forwarded those to us in an email.
Yes.
So just wanted to ask you all to remove the minutes in total to items removed from consent, and then we're asking that you do remove items C, items G, and items H, which would be the June 19th, August 4th, and September 8th minutes. Is that right, Jasmine?
Yes.
Okay.
How about the 24th minutes we just
The
received?
24th minutes, we'll go over what the change was on the individual section that was changed.
Okay. With those changes noted, do I hear a motion that we approve the agenda?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Any items, anyone for recognition?
No, sir.
No new employees?
No, sir.
No presentations?
No, sir.
All righty. Item number 9 is a public hearing, a request for rezoning the Happy Trails Farms LLC property located on the west side of Church Street Extension.
Okay, at this time we will, the council will be holding a public hearing on a request for rezoning. Notice of the public hearing was published in the Daily Reflector. Copy of the notice was also mailed by first-class mail to the owners of all parcels that join the property under consideration as required by state statute. And the person responsible for mailing the notices is supposed to provide the council with certification that those notices were mailed, so I do have certification for the record.
Ms. Lilly, the people who live across the street from the properties, they notify at all?
Anybody whose properties adjoin,
So those across the street would not have any notice of this?
no, they would. I mean, being separated by the street is still considered adjoining. The property under consideration is a 13.7 acre tract that's located on the west side of Church Street Extension. This is where the town's operations center is, so this is the property on the south side of our operations center. The property is currently zoned agricultural residential district, and the applicant has requested rezoning to general business district. We'll switch now to a slide from our zoning map so you can see how this and surrounding properties are currently zoned. So this is the subject property, zoned agricultural residential, and the immediately surrounding properties to the north, to the east, to the south are also currently also zoned agricultural residential district. Then directly behind this property is the CSX Railroad and then Highway 11. Now, across Highway 11 is actually the entrance to South Ridge subdivision. There are some lots fronting Mill that have a general business classification, and the subdivision itself has an R8 classification. As I said, the applicant has requested rezoning to general business district.
The line that, the subject property, is that meets the railroad property?
Yes, the boundary, the western boundary of this property would be the eastern right-of-way line of CSX Railroad. This next slide is taken from the future land use map of our comprehensive land use plan. And this property is shown on the future land use plan as a commercial residential transition area. And I've got a description of how we defined residential commercial transition. It states this category represents undeveloped areas that adjoin or are in close proximity to commercial, industrial, and/or office and institutional areas. Properties within this category may be suitable for a wide range of possible land uses, providing that such uses are appropriately located and arranged with respect to one another. The general intent of this category is to provide for a gradual transition of land uses, placing higher intensity uses along thoroughfares and/or adjacent to existing higher intensity uses, and transitioning into lower intensity uses as you proceed away from these areas. This strategy seeks to prevent incompatibility among adjacent land uses. So, going back to the this slide from our Horizon Land Use Plan, you see that on the north side of the tract is where our operations center is, and that's considered like a government or utility type use. And then we have south of that a suggestion by showing this red area that this would be suitable for commercial uses. And then south of that, the subject property in this transitional area. So the general business district would represent a transitional type. It does fit into that category of transitional district. The Planning and Zoning Board considered this request at their October 21st meeting and did vote to recommend approval. You'll see that in your agenda packet, the written Planning Board report for the October 21st meeting, the action taken by the Planning Board on this item. Before I introduce the applicant's representative, does the council have any questions for me?
Anyone have any questions?
Okay, on behalf of the applicant, we have Mr. Steve Janowski, who I'll invite to make any comments he'd like to add. Any particular map you'd like to be displayed?
That's probably the better one.
Okay.
I think
There's a laser pointer if you need it.
Mayor, councilmen and women, good to be here. My name's Steve Janowski. I'm with Rivers and Associates. How about that? And I represent Happy Trails Farms, LLC. He put this piece together, and as it's explained very well by Alan, this is a transitional piece. You know, I-zoning is everything from the town's facilities all the way up into the corner. And I-zoning basically allows every commercial use and then some. And so just with that understanding, just the way it's zoned right now, if it ever goes into some kind of transition, there's lots of uses that it can be involved with. The general business use, it basically is the kind of the next transition from the industrial as far as the amount of uses that it can have in the commercial arena. and with the railroad track at the rear, with basically I-zoning and a small strip of the A&R between us and the town of Winterville's facilities, we believe this is an excellent transition. At this moment in time, our client has no specific use for it. He's trying to position the property to be developed, and he would like the highest and best use for it. I'll be more than happy to answer questions on that.
Anyone have any questions for Mr. Chinaski? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, we declare the public hearing open. Anyone that would like to speak in favor of this?
Again, my name is Steve Janowski with Rivers and Associates, representing Happy Farms Trails, or Trail Farm LLC, and but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
Anyone else that would like to speak in favor? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, what's the board's pleasure?
I had a few questions, Mayor. Mr. Taylor, do you have utilities in this location?
We do.
We do have utilities. And we have water and sewer also?
Okay.
Motion to approve. Second.
Have a motion and a second for approval. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 2 is rezoning of the Happy Trails Farm LLC located on the east side of Church Street.
Okay, at this time as well, we have a second public hearing, property under the same ownership, but it's the track across the street on the east side of Church Street Extension. Again, notice of this public hearing was published in the Daily Reflector, and copies of the notice were mailed directly to all adjoining property owners. Again, the person responsible for mailing the notice is supposed to certify that fact to the board, and so I have for the record certification of mailing of the notices to the adjoining property owners. This tract is a 15.644 acre tract, again located on the east side of Church Street Extension. It's currently zoned to agricultural residential district, and the applicant requests rezoning to R12.5 district. R12.5 would be residential with a minimum lot size of 12,500 square feet and would allow single-family residential use. Again, this is a slide from our zoning map, so you can see how this and adjoining properties are currently zoned. As we've stated, the subject property is zoned to AR. With the action the board just took, the property west of Church Street, across from it, will now be zoned General Business District. The property to the north of the tract here is Carroll Crossing subdivision, is zoned R8 Conditional Use District, and east of the tract adjoining here is Mellon Downs subdivision, which is, Laurie Meadows subdivision, which is zoned R10 Conditional Use District. Switch now to our future land use plan map again. Which shows this area is appropriate for low residential use, low density residential uses. And the R12.5 zoning classification does meet low density residential standards. So the proposed request is in compliance with our future land use plan. Again, the Planning and Zoning Board considered this request at their October 21st meeting and did vote to recommend approval. You'll see a copy of the report on this item in your agenda packet. Again, before I ask Steve to address you, I ask if the council has any specific questions for me.
Any questions for Alan? Does that go south down to the Hunsucker Well?
The Hunsucker Well is the little purple piece, so it does adjoin the Hunsucker Well lot. Okay, again, I invite Mr. Janowski to address the council.
Again, my name is Steve Janowski with Rivers and Associates, and I represent Happy Trail Farms, LLC. This piece of property does transition to a lower density. We've got R8, R10, and on the east side of that, we've got the R12. So I think it's a very appropriate piece, and it's also set in place where we've got the commercial across the street and then the commercial that you just approved in that transitional zoning. So be more than happy to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
I have one. It does eliminate the potential of having any residential opportunity down in that area on that piece of property by us changing it to what you're asking for.
We're doing the R12.5 on that, which will be residential. Is what we're trying to accomplish on this piece.
Okay.
And it would basically, if you see the R10 lots, which is Laurie Meadows,
Yes.
and you see the R8, they're smaller, and then you look at a little bit larger lots to the east, was that Mellon Downs? Those lots will look probably just a hair larger than those at the top right of that screen. And you can see basically little places where a cul-de-sac would possibly fit in there in order to make that work.
Okay. That, declare the public hearing open. Anyone that would like to speak in favor?
My name's Steve Janowski with Rivers Associates, and I'm in favor of this rezoning. Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak in favor? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Okay, what's the board's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Second. Have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, I think the next item is the consent agenda, and we have removed C, G, and H, I believe.
I believe that's right. Well, actually, I asked that you move the minute subject to items removed from the consent agenda, and yes, we are removing in total C, G, and H.
Okay.
So it will just be the write-off policy that you all would consider under the consent agenda.
So do we want to vote on the consent agenda?
Nobody signed up for public comment.
No, no public comment.
Okay.
How about the June 24th we received tonight?
If you would move all of the minutes to items removed from consent, and then we will go over the changes in the minutes that remain on the agenda at that
Okay.
agenda
well,
item.
Item number one under the consent agenda, can we approve that?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a motion that we approve the consent agenda with all items removed except number one?
All items removed except number.
So moved.
We're only voting under consent on number one.
Number one, no. Approval write-off
Okay.
policy.
The
Okay.
next agenda item would be the
Okay.
Okay.
minutes.
We have a motion, did I hear?
Second.
And a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, now, so we get down to the items removed from the consent agenda. The first one is June 9th, 2014.
Good evening. So in regards to the minutes For June 9th, there was just a grammatical error under the consent, which is removing items 1 and 2 that were in a previous month. It's just a,
It's the first 1 and 2, right?
yeah, for June.
So do we
Nine.
need to vote for June, that particular one with the change noted?
If you're in agreement to remove those 2 items which were from a previous meeting, then we would ask that you approve as amended, and Jasmine, of course, will reflect those changes in the final.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, item B is June 17th.
There are no changes to June 17th. I'll just say, item B, June 17th, July 14th, and October 20th, there are no changes to that, so I'm just asking for your approval of those.
Okay, June 17th is okay. And what's the next one?
July 14th,
July 14th, okay. And then
July 29th,
July 29th, okay.
and October 20th.
October 20th. All right, do I hear a motion that we approve B, E, F, and I?
So
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second for approval. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we'll move back up to item C.
For item C and item G and item H, I'm asking to move those to table them to December so that the suggested changes can be made.
Okay? Do I hear a motion that we table those 3?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to table. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
And the last set of minutes to discuss is June 24th, which they are at your seats. And if you turn to the second page, highlighted in yellow are the changes. The first one is the motion about the budget ordinance. And then the statement concerning the urgent repair program. And the 2 motions concerning that. And the crossed-out sections are wording that just does not need to be in there. So if you want to table this also, that's fine, or however.
I think what there needed to be was a clarification, and correct me if I'm wrong, Keen and Jasmine, of the motions made.
Yes.
And who made them, and then what was actually changed. And so it was all relating to the urgent repair guidelines, and then the ultimate budget ordinance that went with that item.
How about if we just table that also?
That's completely up to the council.
I think that would be a good idea, table that one also until our December meeting.
Yes.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to table that one also until our December meeting. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay.
Thank you.
We'd done that earlier. There's 4 were already tabled to December, and the 24th is one of those. Same thing twice. It was, we had taken the 20C, D, which is 24th, we just see in front of us, the addition, the 4th, and the H. We'd already approved to go to December. Then we went back on the 24th again.
We didn't include the 24th, did we?
We didn't improve it.
You mentioned
To
D
move.
earlier.
No, I didn't ask for approval of the 24th. I just didn't.
That took care of them.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Excuse me. Does that take care of the consent agenda?
It does. Thank you. Sorry for the confusion.
Okay. Any items under old business?
No, sir.
Okay, new business. Is appointment of Sean Owens to Stormwater Advisory Committee.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the appointment. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving right along. Item 15, the first one is funds available from vacant positions, Assistant Town Manager.
How much?
I have that number. The assistant town manager's position's been vacant July, August, September, and October. And that figure is, give me 1 second, $36,281.32.
It's my understanding that that position has been or is getting ready to be filled.
That's correct.
But we still have the money available to other parts of the budget now.
Those 4 months will be available.
And where we move that money to?
It'll stay right where it is unless you all ask to move it elsewhere.
I would like to move it to capital improvements,
When you say capital improvements,
capital projects.
we usually have a separate capital project fund for each capital project. So once we figure out,
Okay.
certainly we can do that whenever you all decide to, Anthony, jump in if I'm speaking out of turn, but once the project is decided that you'd like to move the money to, then we can certainly do that.
You're saying to a specific project?
Yes, usually capital projects, we create a separate fund for those projects because they're usually large, and there's some criteria for how you get to be capital, or how a project gets to be a capital project. So once you all decide where you would like to move it, we can certainly do that.
Okay. All righty. Item number 2 is a handicap sidewalk entrance from entrance to Cox Athletic Field.
Yes. I attended a number of games this year at Cox football and had a great season. They went, I think, 7-1. But I had a number of people complain to me because we did not have a entrance for handicap. It was further down the street, and I'd like for us to have one right at the gate.
Is that on Sylvania Street?
No. That would be on
Blunt.
Blunt Street.
Okay.
It is on City Street, right?
Yes. I'd like to ask the council to approve putting the handicap ramp there.
Do we have an idea what that'll cost?
I'd have to defer to Travis.
This would probably be a non-traditional handicap ramp because there's a fence right on the property line there. With removing the existing curb and gutter and sidewalk and replacing with new, I would think $5,000 would cover it, hopefully.
I make a motion that we approve $5,000 for a handicap ramp.
Where would that $5,000 come from?
The $36,000 we had from the position that was vacant.
So we would move that to capital outlay for public works. Does that sound right? No, just capital outlay. So we would be moving it from administration salaries to public works capital outlay. So no reason council can't go ahead and vote to do that? And we just follow up with a...
Yeah, we can bring the budget amendment back. I mean, they can approve it tonight, but then that we'll just put on the consent agenda with the budget amendment that includes the change.
If you ever pushed anybody with a wheelchair, and as you get older, you use wheelchairs, and I went to the state fair a few weeks ago. I was amazed at how many people had those motorized riders, which they were nice. People who are really sick still want to get out in public, visit their grandchildren or children, see them play, and it was quite a distance to this location.
I have a question of Travis. When you say non-traditional, what do you mean by that?
Well, because, I'd say a 5 or 6 foot sidewalk there, and immediately behind that is a fence. Most handicap ramps that you're probably used to seeing ramp up, and then there's a space behind them, up what you call a landing, which is required by the code. So in this case, the bottom of the ramp would actually be flat, basically even with the street, and it would ramp up in both directions.
But it
Your
would meet
landing
all-
would be the existing
It
sidewalk.
would meet all specifications.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Until that can be done, can't they go in down around the gym and go down the sidewalk?
There is an existing handicap parking space and ramp about, I think, let's say 350 feet.
Down by the gym,
West.
by the gymnasium.
Yeah, in front of the cafeteria, there is a space.
We will expedite that if council would like us to.
Okay. Well, have we, okay, we had a motion. Did we have a second?
Not yet.
Second.
All in favor, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Item number 3 is the change policy minutes for approval.
As you saw tonight, if we look back at our minutes from June 9th to now, this makes it, made it difficult to me to want to vote on something this long ago. So I would like to ask the town manager, would it be appropriate, other towns might do it, to have it like a 2-month maximum length of time after you have the minutes for approval? What's normal? What do most towns do?
My experience has been that, apart from any extenuating circumstances, that a set of minutes from 1 month be approved at the next month's regular agenda. Sometimes there are extenuating circumstances that warrant a little longer
So
time.
what would it take for us to make it, say, a maximum of 2 months?
You can put it in a policy, or you can direct me that's what you want, and don't go over 2 months. We can make it.
I think a good point would be to, in case we do have extenuating circumstances,
Yes.
Okay.
have that in there.
Okay. Then just,
It just makes it difficult to go back. I went back over some of those minutes and questioned some of the things.
I understand.
So I would like to ask you then.
Sure.
If you would, no more than 60 days, that's all. Just take care of it.
In other words, we are changing it's not an ordinance, it's a policy.
administrative policy, I think we would call it, and we'll make sure it's included.
Do I hear a motion for that policy change?
I make a motion for the policy change to ask the town manager to, no more than 60 days.
I second.
Do we
Have a
need
motion and a second.
Question. Do we need to add, say, unless extenuating circumstances are without council's approval or with council's approval, just in case that we won't be able to do every 60 days? If something happens, whatever.
It would appear to me that if we add extenuating circumstances, then the manager could bring up that
What I'll do is
circumstance.
report if there's a reason ahead of time. Jasmine and I will obviously have a conversation, and if there's a reason, a viable reason that we would need to extend it beyond that, then I would obviously formally contact you and make sure that everybody's on board with that.
Do we need to add it, or do we just leave it like it is?
I was going to add 60 days unless I can add exactly that, unless extenuating circumstances upon which town manager would contact the council ahead of time. And I can make it as specific
That
so that
agreeable
it's
with?
Yes.
easy to interpret.
I know that we have a lot, we depend a lot on technology.
Yes, we do.
And unlike the olden days, technology breaks down sometimes.
Yes, it does.
Difficulties with it.
So I'll make it as specific, easy to understand, so everybody's on the same page.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Last meeting, we had discussed about the apartments on Mill Street being abandoned. I visited the apartments last week, and we said it was a major concern about apartments. So how soon do you think we will have in place, Ms. Parker, we can do something? What's the next step?
I know that Stephen, our economic development planner, and Keen Lasser, our town attorney, has, well, in addition to Mike Weldon, our building inspector, code enforcement officer, have all been researching. I think Stephen, I've asked him to give a report of the entities he's contacted regarding any funding, et cetera, that might be available for such a project. And then I would ask Keen to follow up on the legal logistics that are attached to this specific property. And then you'll sort of know what the entire scenario is, and then we can go
Did we
from there.
receive a report in the December meeting?
It's going,
I was prepared to give you one
Oh, you
tonight,
want tonight? Go
but
ahead.
sure. Yes, sir. I'd ask that Stephen go first.
Good evening. Regarding local, state, and federal resources to assist with the renovation of Mill Street apartments, unfortunately, it appears as of right now there are no promising resources that have been identified. I contacted the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, the City of Greenville's Community and Economic Development Planning Department, Pitt County's Development Commission, Pitt County's Planning Department, ECU's Planning Department. I posted a question or a discussion on VCU's Planning Discussion Board as well as UNC's Planning Listserv. And I've reached out to the Mideast Commission's Director of Community and Economic Development, Kevin Richards, but I've not yet heard from him yet. While I was talking with the Department of Commerce's NCHFA, they expressed that this is not the type of project that they typically invest in. They said that their investors, partners, and them are not interested in pursuing this type of project. They didn't know of any state or federal programs that would assist with such a project. They said that we could look into the Community Development Block Grant and it could be applied for, but in their opinion, this is not a good candidate for such funds. I also spoke with the City of Greenville's Nikki Jones, a community development planner, who Carl Reese suggested I speak with. And he expressed that we could look into home and community development block grants. We could apply through HUD. These programs are very competitive. They also did not feel like this is promising for those programs. He noted that the City of Greenville does not have any type of programs that assist with similar projects, such as apartment buildings that have been abandoned in this way. And of course, if we did want to turn it into apartments, we would have to make it residential again. But from everybody else I spoke with at this moment, they didn't have anything else to add on to that. They didn't know of anything else. I would be happy to talk with you in detail about the conversations I had, but I will also be on the lookout for anything that may pop up, pertaining to this project.
in Winston-Salem, they bought a hotel, and they developed housing from that hotel. It was in an area, of course, that was community development group that did that.
Right.
And I know we don't have a group in Winterville of that size that could handle that kind of project, but I was thinking if there were maybe some resources in Pitt County, a community development group that would take on that project. And
Well, from what I found, there isn't yet. As of this moment, there's not. And I actually talked with Nikki Jones with the City of Greenville about, we talked about other cities have done things like this. Nikki was a little concerned that there are only 20 units. The return, it would take quite a while if it was fair market value to get that back. So most investors may step out of the way for that reason alone. But like you said, some towns and cities have looked further into it. And Nikki also expressed that most of these towns who have looked into that are towns that have a lack of rental properties, whereas in this area that's not necessarily the case. But it is absolutely something that that can be looked into as well.
when they say it like in this area, they're lumping Winterville and Greenville.
Right, regionally. Yes, ma'am.
Well, the last thing we heard from the owner was that they were going to sue Pitt County.
Well,
She was going to sue Pitt County.
I do think Keene, and Stephen, thank you. I do think that Mr. Lassiter has some additional legal information to add to what's going on with that property.
Thank you, Terry. Yeah, what I have sort of dovetails in what Steve was saying. I checked with the Pitt County Clerk of Court's office, the Register of Deeds office, and the Pitt County Tax Office just to check on the status of the property. The property is owned by an LLC known as BHCO LLC. Tax records show that taxes for 2013 are due, and of course, 2014 are now due. So there's, if you will, delinquent taxes for 2013. And this is regarding what I'm going to call the apartments. I think that the address is 2272 Mill Street. It's also, what I'm saying applies to the adjacent tract. That LLC owns both tracts. So taxes are due. My opinion is the tax office probably isn't going to do anything probably to 2015. If there is in fact 2 years due, the tax office may take steps with the tax foreclosure. However, when I checked with the Pitt County Clerk of Court's office, I found that there is an ongoing foreclosure action against the property. The note holder, owner of the debt, is Walter Williams, and he has an ongoing foreclosure action against both tracts, the apartment and the one next door. There initially was a foreclosure hearing set for October 30th. That was continued upon request of the property owner until December 4th. So there is a hearing set for December 4th, a foreclosure hearing. It's my understanding that there's the chances are very good the matter will be heard then. And the way these normally play out, once there's a foreclosure hearing, if the clerk of court approves the foreclosure, they issue an order, and there's usually a foreclosure sale within 30 to 45 days. So that would put us probably mid to late January with the foreclosure sale. And I'm sure, as you know, what that works is there's a sale at the courthouse steps, and if interested bidders can show up, and there may be 20 people there may be one, there may be none, but there's the strong likelihood that ownership of that property will change come mid to late January of 15. So, once that happens, then there will be a new property owner. I spoke with the attorney representing Mr. Williams, and it's my understanding that even though he has not spoken with Mr. Williams about this, his opinion is that the property will be marketed almost immediately for sale. That's, again, if Mr. Williams is the purchaser at the foreclosure sale.
What can we do as a board? Because I do not believe the apartments, when you've had pipes frozen this long, utilities this long, it's not really worth anything. That's one topic. What can we do as a board to make sure we push that process even further? Can we enter into some kind of ordinance that says this is uninhabitable and have it inspected?
Well, it's my understanding that, and I'm remembering about what Mike said 3 weeks ago, is that, and Terry, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think maybe y'all have more conversation than I, but I think that this is not completely worked its way through the minimum housing code part of our ordinance. Whether there's another ordinance we can bring to bear to try to force something to happen, I'm not aware of it until we reach the end result of the minimum housing code process.
What's the next level then on the minimum housing code?
Well, again, I'm not sure where Mike is in the process, to be honest.
I wouldn't want to wait until after the sale. I'd like to go ahead and move forward now since it's been so long. That's my opinion.
Well, I can give a little information. It has been through the process and declared dilapidated, meaning unsafe and can be repaired. No, I'm sorry. Deteriorated means unsafe and can be repaired. He has not declared it uninhabitable. Thank you. There was a hearing held, which Ms. Harris attended. She obviously, as she has told this council, had plans for that property which have not come to be. Mr. Weldon made her board up windows, areas of access, and issued findings of fact sent to Ms. Harris. I'm reading an email, so bear with me. And they have been in pretty constant communication. He believes that, again, it is repairable. Obviously, it's going to take a lot to do that. Having said that, I believe the current way the ordinance is written requires the next steps, correct me, King, to be taken to court, potentially, if it's declared
Dilapidated? Or it's been vacant for a certain period of time. When was the hearing?
A little over a year ago.
Okay. Did he give her an opportunity to fix it, and has that time passed?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know the time passed about when?
Early fall.
Okay.
So we've been a year,
Yes.
it's been done for a year.
Or you have to wait
You
a
have
year.
to give, there's the period of time of a year from the hearing, so that, I guess that time ran in, as Terry said,
Actually,
early
it's
fall.
been just a little over 2 months ago.
Let me ask you to dovetail in with your question, and I think at that point in time, after the year of showing no intent to fix it, the matter comes back before this board for an ordinance. I think you have to have a public hearing, advertise the hearing. At the end of the public hearing, you can pass an ordinance to have it demolished. There's a short period of time, I believe 45 days, which you have to give the owner the opportunity to demolish it themselves, to pay for it, in other words. If not, then the board can pay the money, or the town could pay to have it demolished, and with those, that cost being a lien against the property.
And how many other properties is just like this?
Well, there is no other property just like this.
But I think there are 8 other properties.
There are 9.
There are 9 properties total. We
Wait a
would wait
minute.
a year for.
Let me look.
9.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for the attorney. Let's say it goes to sale on the courthouse steps in January. A new owner, are they under any grandfather clause, or can they just buy that property that sit there just like it is, or will they have to do something immediately on purchasing that property?
They would be buying the property subject to all the work that the town has done. In other words, they don't start all over again. If that's what your question is to me, do they have a whole new period of time? No, they would buy it subject to the same status that things are, what the town has done. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Two have come off that list.
2 have come off the list, so we have 7 other properties that have been a year.
Well, no, they're not all at the same time. It varies. So, but to answer your question, some, yes,
What properties, do you have the addresses of those properties that have been waiting?
I do. 97 Cooper Street, 133 Boyd Street, 672 Bayberry Lane, 222 Gardner Street,
Bayberry?
Bayberry, 222 Gardner Street, 2619 Coopers Point Drive, 239 Tyson. I'm reading as I go along, so help me. 2667 Garland Road came off the list. 155 Main Street is in the process. And
155 Main Street?
want to say is in the process. They have complied with some things and are still working on the other minimum housing
Right.
project, items. Let's see, and then 2564 Mill Street, that came off the list.
So we need to encourage King to go ahead and process all properties?
The ones that have
Met the criteria.
met the criteria, so.
If two have come off the 9, so you're left with 7, the apartments
Really
probably...
6, because one's in, I would say 155 Main Street's in the process of trying to comply.
The apartments fall in a little different category,
Yes,
but
that
you've
is not on
got
this
that
list.
one out there also.
Will you bring back a report in December, the status of these, how soon we will move forward?
Be glad to.
And we can, for those that need an ordinance, we can have those ordinances prepared.
Have a public hearing in the ordinance at the same time.
Public hearing ordinance.
So do we have the authority tonight from the council to set all of the applicable public hearings for the December meeting?
We can. Now, this, one of the other issues, and Terry and I spoke briefly about it, but I think there's money being placed in the budget. There was not in last
That's
calendar
true.
or fiscal year, but in this fiscal year, money was placed in the budget to do some of this demolition and other things.
We won't have enough to do all of these houses.
Yeah, and so that's, we can, my suggestion would be that we bring forward, start with a few of these, that we've got the money to move forward with them, and not have an ordinance without the ability to actually quickly go ahead and move forward and demolish the property. So we select whatever money we have, if it's to do 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, then we bring those forward for your approval, hearing and
That's a good
ordinance.
point.
If we eliminate the lien, if we go ahead and demolish the property or does it eliminate the lien? We do not have to place a lien on that piece of property if we have the money in the budget to
No, if
demolish it?
If this council approves the expenditure of funds to tear down, let's just say one residence, but it's apply for all the others, a structure, if it costs $7,000 to tear it down, then that full $7,000 that you spend, the town's money, will be a lien against the property that we hope we can recover. Please understand that there's no guarantee with that because it depends on what happens to the property.
So there still will be a lien placed on it?
Yes,
if
sir.
we
Oh,
would,
yeah, there would be a lien.
We are, obviously, our hope would be to encourage the property owners that have the ability to do that, to demolish, that they go ahead and demolish, and not we have to do it. We demolishing would be a last resort, obviously.
And I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I know certain ones that I'm aware of, they have not been demolished is because of they just do not have the finance to do it with.
Well, then the scenario that Mr. Lassiter just explained would come into play.
Mr. Mayor, to the town's attorney, are our ordinances up to date and in place to do what needs to be done at this point?
That it relates to the destruction of dilapidated structures, yes, sir, I believe they are.
So we could move forward, if need be, at the end of this time period, to go ahead with the work that needs to be done,
If funds are available.
if funds are available.
Yes, sir, yeah, that's exactly right.
What funds do we have at this time?
I knew you were going to ask me that question.
You know it was coming.
I don't recall off the top of my head. I'll go 15,000.
15,000.
We think. That's Willie and Mike's department, and I just don't recall. I think that sounds about right.
But could we go ahead and have the public hearing in December for these properties, though?
We could, I think Keen's suggestion, and I would agree, have a public hearing on what you can afford to demolish, because then again, if you issue an order, time's running, and then if there's no money appropriated to demolish, then we sort of are in a quandary.
But we have another $31,000 available that we can add to that we might from the position of vacant assistant town manager. So $31,000. So that's $45,000.
That would certainly go farther.
Of course, my concern about this, as far as a lot of our senior citizens, we advertise our town. We have something about an 80% home ownership rate, which we're proud of. And a lot of these houses, some of these houses are owned by people who are now senior citizens, and they're barely getting by on the money that they have. Some of these people and some of these properties, we already know that the taxes on them have caused a great hardship on a lot of our citizens. In a lot of towns, they're able to get community development block grants that allow them to tear down dwellings like this. And there's no lien against the property. The person still owns the property. And I just have I have a big problem with this, and I feel like to place a lien against that property defeats the purpose, of tearing it down somewhat. I know that we want our community to look well, but, and maybe it's because of my own personal experience growing up here in Winterville. and knowing what poverty is, and knowing what it's like not to have, that I can understand when the town makes and enforces a rule that you cannot afford. And I know I live right beside one of these properties that's been under consideration, and I know that lady does not have the money to tear that house down, because if she did, it would have been torn down. She's looked at options, but to turn around now and put a lien against that property to tear the house down, I feel like it's unfair to her, because she already is just putting her further and further behind. She owns the property. Property's family land. It's been the family ever since I can remember, which is over 60 years. And I would hate very much to see her lose it because of a lien, and she's already having trouble paying taxes on it. And I'm speaking that because I know that situation very well, but I'm quite sure it may apply to some of the other properties up here. If there is any way that we could get those properties, that we could do it without putting a lien against them. I know Aiden was able to tear down a whole church without putting a lien against that property. But, of course, that was with CDBG monies, which we've already spent $10,000 for an engineering company to tell us that we can't get any funds. But I would like for us to explore ways to do this without putting liens against properties of people who cannot afford them.
Ms. Robertson, I agree with what you're saying, and it could be possible that the town board would agree that there could be a scale introduced of certain incomes, or a case by case, house by house, whatever it might be, that would qualify for an excuse on a lien. But at the same time, is it fair that you charge one person but you don't charge another one?
And Mr. Cooper, we're not arguing, I'm just stating the fact right now. A couple of months ago, we decided that we would put utilities in a subdivision, which in essence, the amount that we're spending on those utilities, we're going to recoup way later on. But right now, that developer, that person that owns the property is going to sell it to a developer, and that money that we're spending putting those poles down came from, our citizens' money. But it's going to benefit that person building that development. And that's one person. And that person's financial condition is a lot better than a lot of these people that own these homes. So if we can spend, is it about $26,000 to $30,000 to put down poles to bring utilities to a development and absorb that cost, then I surely believe that we should be able to allocate some money to tear down these houses for people who cannot afford it.
One day that money will come back, though.
Well, in the long run, we will get it back. It'll take us a long time to get it back. Whereas these people have invested tax money over years and years also to the town.
Could we get an estimate of what it would cost to tear each one of these homes down then?
Yes, sir.
I think that'd be a good start. If we could find out exactly what it would cost to get each one of them down first.
Now we can I'm sorry. I was going to say, we can tell you what it would cost us, unless you want us to get proposals from contractors on what they would charge to tear it down.
Both prices will be fine with me. If you can see exactly
And
what
those
the contract
costs
is.
from house to house could be very similar, could be somewhat different depending on whether there's asbestos or a little asbestos or a lot, or, so it could fluctuate a good bit from one structure to another.
I'd like to have an idea. I agree to a certain point of what you're saying. If we can do it financially, we found money tonight, to start things out. It's a start. We found more money than we had before, and that we make be able to do that. My concern is, the length of time you have a dilapidated house beside you, and it brings your property values down, and the whole neighborhood continues to grow, and taxes affect every one of us. The more houses are worth, the better off we are than the house that's not. But the better neighborhoods are that have these houses done away with. We had one on Depot Street, it took us 25 years to take down across the old rescue squad building. 25 years, our house did not have utilities. It sat there beside the lady's house for 25 years before we took it down. We had one on Boyd Street that took longer than that had no indoor plumbing. And all these residents had to put up with this house the entire time, next door, bring the values down of that property. And our property values will go up once these houses are done away with, in some way, shape, or form. Is the one on Bayberry Lane, is that the one about the flooded house?
No, that's the house that has been mentioned several times. I don't think anybody lives in it.
That house will not take that much to bring it up, but then again, you bring it up, it's probably foreclosed to be sold, I would think.
I think it's already, I'm looking at Willie, because Mr. Weldon couldn't be here tonight. I believe that's,
It has to be, to tear it down, it has to be more than 65% cost.
right, and
There's two in that same area.
Right.
Cooper's Point Drive and one on Bayberry.
that are not probably going to meet the standard for demolition, but then now we're in a situation where, I mean, theoretically, you all can order it repaired, we can pay to repair it, but then it's trying to obviously recoup that money from whether the property owners own it or banks own it or whatever the situation may be.
But I'd like at least start somewhere and get some prices. And also, properties that we know can't be repaired, look at the hearings and then go from there. And maybe we can take care of it financially. Is that fair enough?
I will be prepared to come back with some estimates with staff's help for the December meeting.
Okay. That sounds good. Now, there's one house, Mayor, you mentioned on Cooper Street.
Cooper Street.
Is that house, and then
Nobody's lived in it for, I know, 3 years. And
I know
the
that-
neighbors are complaining about it.
I know Mr. Weldon has worked on that property, but certainly it's probably not going to meet the definitions of what we're talking about
Are
here.
lights turned off there?
I don't know. We'd have to check.
Let me make sure I understand. Do we have 2 reports that we're supposed to be receiving for next month on this? It's going to be 2 reports. It's supposed to be one with cost, what it would cost to go in and tear it down, and also we are asking to, what's the next level that we need to take,
On which ones
on which one
to move forward with?
to move forward. And also, we're still looking at the fact that it doesn't matter what we look at, them homes need to come down. They are dangerous. Going back to what Ms. Robinson said a few minutes ago, it is true. I am aware of some of the situation that some of those owners have a financial difficulty of paying for the cost. But it does not change the need that need to be done. We need to do something. Something needs to be done to those homes. But I'm not in agree of putting a lien on their home, on a home that they have had all the many years.
Well, the challenge is, and the other thing that I have worked on personally throughout the various jurisdictions I've been with, is a voluntary agreement for demolition, but usually that means the property reverts to the town. And I assume that's not what you all are talking about here. You want the property to remain in the property owner's possession, so.
If we can. And I think that's one that should be our first option. Our
Well,
first choice.
and one
We're
of
going to
the-
do all we can to make sure it stays in the family property.
One other thing that, and this is a what if, but once, let's say, legal proceedings are started, it may encourage some of the property owners to contact us. It's my understanding that Mike has spoken with those that would speak to him about it, but we might be able to work out on some of these properties a burn. And with that, that'll be, of course, a resolution of the dilapidated issue. Not much cost to the property owner other than just the removal of the debris after the burn. So that's maybe a long shot, but might be able to work that out with 1 or 2 of the 6 or 7 houses. That would be a quicker resolution and cheaper.
The next item at 5 is capital improvements. I would like
Did
to,
we finish everything we need to talk about on that one?
yes, sir.
I'm coming back, just for clarification, I'm coming back in December with estimates on the properties that are on the list. Obviously, with if anything changes between now and then on the status of any of those properties, we'll be back to report that as well. And also, the status of, I'll give you the time frames of what properties have been on the list and for how long, so that then, if you so choose to move forward with setting a public hearing and moving forward with an order, you can do that. Does that make sense? And then we'll also look at what potential's out there for those that need to be demolished and how we might go about doing that.
The next one I brought up was, I'd like to ask the board to have schedule a meeting with the property owners on the downtown properties and to discuss sidewalks. These property owners pay additional utility rates each month. They pay that's monthly. They pay a license fee. They pay property tax. They supply jobs. There are places that are convenient for our people to go to and buy products. And the least we could do is have sidewalks in downtown Winterville that look nice for our town. So a meeting to be scheduled with the property owners, both the two blocks, the block that is directly in front of the police department, and then the block that's the next one too. And ask those property owners about their thoughts on a sidewalk. The sidewalk is broken in both areas. Of course, some had new cement put down. But what their thoughts are on having sidewalks. And what type of sidewalks? Printed, what color, beige, have some suggestions.
Where would the funds come from, Mr. Moore?
Well, they've been paying utilities, and like homeowners, they've been paying additional rates every single month they're in business. My rates at my driving school are much, even I had the same unit you have. You have a 3-ton unit, I have a 3-ton unit. But since I have a business in Winterville, I pay a higher rate every single month. The better our downtown looks, the better our property rates go up, and therefore we get back in tax dollars. But the sidewalks were done, I believe, in 1974. And they've been broken by town workers, and we've broken them up a number of times doing repairs.
I think my question would be is, once those funds is collected from you, and we're talking about the charges that we charge, it does not go into that type of fund, does it?
No, it goes, I'm sorry.
And I think that's that would be one of my concerns is, where does the funds goes at, that is being collected? It goes in that department that.
We're talking about the demand charge for electric, I assume?
Yes.
That goes back into the revenue.
Yes.
That's part of the revenue stream for the electric fund.
All right. But do you agree that the downtown blocks need sidewalks?
I agree with it.
And we have Powell bill funds available for that purpose.
I agree. I agree that one needs some, and I agree that the one right there in front of W.S. Robinson, needs sidewalk.
A new sidewalk.
I'm talking about in front of it. What's that, Chapman? Is that Boyd Street?
Well, I'd say that's a state road. This is not state road. These are on.
Could I
Go ahead.
ask to go one step further? I believe that from obviously a downtown revitalization standpoint, it is probably time to try to help form some downtown business association or downtown business task force that could look at not only sidewalks comprised of some business owners in that area, but that could help try to work with Stephen and myself in the town to meet some of the goals of the downtown revitalization. It would not be the Economic Development Task Force. They met their charge, but I think it would be, like a lot of places have, a downtown businesses, different from the chamber, comprised of the downtown business owners specifically, so that they could have some input and vision setting for their area.
When I did my sidewalk years ago, I paid for it out of my pocket. It was no cost to the town whatsoever. Well, in front of Wimpy's was done with money we had left over from other funds. But especially the one in front of the police department that starts at Depot Street and goes around and ends up on Main Street is in terrible repair. That's the worst.
Well, bear in mind, I'm not saying that it does not need to be done. I'm not saying I wouldn't support something like that, but I would say that if I would support something like that, let's look at.
I think the point about having a public hearing would be good, even though I've had no business complain to me about sidewalks. None.
You mean a meeting?
Yeah, have the
Property owners meeting.
A meeting.
property owners, yes, I'm sorry. Wouldn't be
just
wouldn't be a public hearing, that's
Right,
right.
right.
I
A
used the
public
wrong,
meeting.
I used the
Good, I
wrong
just wanna make sure we're on the
terminology.
same
I'd like to
page.
make a motion that we set up a meeting, date, and time for the property owners to attend to have comments on the sidewalks in the downtown area.
But could it just not be just sidewalks, but
Yeah,
downtown revitalization
Sure.
or beautification? I know,
It expands
right after I
on
came
that.
on the board, we had a study done, right?
Right.
Yes.
Remember with the benches and the parking areas and the trees and things like that?
And that was passed around during the Economic Development Task Force strategic planning process to the downtown owners. Some of them assert that they've never seen that report. I just put that out there.
So the focus would be downtown?
I'm sorry?
The focus will be in the downtown area?
For this specific,
These owners.
yes, for this specific area, because the downtown revitalization is revitalization of what we would consider to be the existing downtown. Any economic development efforts that focus in other areas will be separate and apart from this particular goal.
I think, Mr. Smith, didn't you make some,
I'll second.
didn't you say something about us making some steps towards doing some of these things? I think, right, either during our budget here, our retreat or something, I
Yes.
remember, talking about we had the plan and we hadn't done any of the phases of the plan. And this, well, been on board now about 7 years, so that's how long ago it was. So,
I've been on this board, this is my 9th year on this board, and we have talked about and beat downtown to death, but we've not put one dime towards doing anything downtown. And until this board decides that we want to do something downtown, even if it's a 5 or 6 year implementation, that's what it's going to take to get something done. I mean, we need to do some work downtown. And I know money's tight, but until we dedicate ourselves to that, it's not going to get done.
It's not a very pleasant place to visit. We're having Veterans Day tomorrow, and people will look across and look at our downtown versus other downtowns. At least the city has not done, in my opinion, their part in making it look aesthetically better.
We did an extremely nice study, paid good money for it with Rivers and Associates. They brought back a fantastic plan. Now, at that time, the economy was, in a downspin, so it was tough to come up with any money to do that. But that plan's been in place. We don't have to implement that entire plan, but there's a number of things within that plan that we can implement at minimal cost and make some strides in having our downtown appear better. But again, it's going to take this board moving forward. To be honest with you, I'm tired of task force, committees. It doesn't work. Let's do what we set out to do a number of years ago.
I'll send the plan back out. It'll be the numerous times I've sent the plan out. I'll do it again and ask for the board's direction on what you'd like to fund and see done.
Well, the reason I mentioned the sidewalks, that we have monies available for that, the power bill.
Is that
And let me say, this is not a staff issue. they've done what we've asked them to do, and you're right. We've looked at that a number of times, so I'm not blaming or, staff or, it's this board. We have not done what we needed to do to make downtown look better. So the blame starts right here.
Clint Barber spent $25,000 in improvements to the roofs of 2 of his buildings downtown this past year, $25,000. He put the money back into the business. I added $94,000 worth of improvements to my business. $94,000. I made an investment in downtown Winterville. When I came to downtown Winterville in 1994, most of the businesses were closed except for the Dick's Queen. Most of them were closed. Now we've got them all rented out downtown. Now we need to move forward, make it look better. Anyway, my point is just to have us do something to make it look aesthetically better.
Well, I will, at the council's directions, to set up a meeting.
I thought that he had a motion on the floor, didn't he? Mr.
You may
Moore?
be right.
We were talking about having a meeting with the downtown folks. I don't think we had a motion yet.
Oh, he didn't do a motion on it?
Well, if we don't have a motion, let me ask Councilman Smith, what do you propose this board to do, and are you ready to put it in the form of a motion tonight?
Well,
We do? Thank you. I'm
Oh,
not
we
sure
did.
where the
made the
town
motion.
clerk is gone.
Yes.
Councilman Moore made a motion. Do we have a second?
Well, I asked to include the inclusion of revitalization downtown or beautification downtown to the motion rather than just to consider sidewalk.
And I would second that.
Okay, so
You accept that?
a meeting with
Okay.
downtown business owners to discuss any and all issues, and seconded by Councilman.
Set up a meeting date, is that correct?
Right, I'll set up
Okay.
a meeting date, and also get the downtown, I'm going to call it beautification report. I don't exactly recall the verbiage back out to the council
Okay.
for the consideration.
Okay, so we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. That, I think, takes care of the A, B, C, and D under capital projects.
The next one is the staff cost projections for public safety around A.G. Cox Middle School. Years ago, we did sidewalks around, this is number 6,
Right.
around, I think the safety, gave us some safety money for purposes of putting the sidewalks down in front of Robinson years ago.
Right, I think it started with A.G. Cox, and then they moved it to Robinson.
Right, with Robinson. So now look at this, the council come up with projections of what it would cost to do a sidewalk along, but North Street, but this Blunt Street.
North Blunt Street.
Blunt Street to the gym, and then sidewalks on the rear side of A.G. Cox, which is on state property.
Yes, we will come up with cost estimates. I'm going to ask Alan, though, part of that was included in what has been submitted to the MPO, correct? And just so he can remind everybody how that process has changed.
There used to be a program called Safe Routes to School. It's my understanding that program itself doesn't exist anymore, but there are funds that were allocated for that purpose that are still available. So DOT staff suggested to us that we submit sidewalk project through the regular Transportation Improvement Program process, and they will take a look at all of those, especially in the MPOs, and try to select some for funding. So the project we proposed is sidewalks in the area behind A.G. Cox. Part of that would be a sidewalk on the west side of Main Street, immediately adjacent to the athletic fields. There's some challenges there because there's a little bit of a swale, and the ground is sloped a little bit. We have some utility poles with guy wires, but I don't think they're insurmountable challenges. So the project I proposed also would include some sidewalks in the parts of Cooper's Point that were developed before we had the sidewalk requirement. It would also include some pedestrian crossings. And so to qualify for a TIP type project had to go over $100,000. So I've designed, and Travis really helped me big time on this, a project over in there that would, in that area that would be about $110,000. and had to submit that through the MPO, but they were very cooperative and actually made it a pretty significant priority in the MPO's requested projects. I talked to Jeff Cabanas, I think I've said Cabanas, with DOT at our technical coordinating committee meeting last week to ask about the status of that. And it sounds like sometime, hopefully in maybe spring of or 2015, that they will select projects for funding. And I hold on to hope that our project is one that's selected. The staff from DOT are the ones who contacted me and said, submit a project. So I took that to mean that they're looking for us to do that, and that maybe we'd stand a good chance of getting some of those funds.
How about along the street, Blunt Street, from church to the gym?
We currently have sidewalks on Blunt from
The gym.
all the way from Church to Cooper on the north side of the street. On the south side, I believe there's sidewalks only maybe from the gym over to Ainge. So I assume you're speaking of on the south side from Church to where the sidewalk in front of the gym area starts.
That's correct.
Can we get back to Ain Street for just a second? Does any of that include curb and guttering, or is that just sidewalk and crosswalk?
All I have proposed is sidewalk and crosswalk, and because Ainge is a DOT street, would have to meet their standards, and if there's a ditch cross-section, they require that the sidewalk be behind the ditch cross-section. And so that's why I've proposed it right up against the fence to get on the opposite side of the ditch cross-section.
I think with that, I'm saying this, I think we could work with them to include that, but it was not part of the project that was submitted for funding.
I mean, obviously, I don't think in the next 100 years the DOT is not going to curb and gutter Ain Street. And it would go a long way if we look at curb and guttering at least down to Division Street. It would also give the park a little better aesthetics. It'll look,
One of the biggest challenges for curb and gutter there is the drainage that is on the east side, pretty significant drainage ditch. I assume we would have to pipe that to put the curb and gutter in, but if we're able to do that, it could be curb and gutter could be installed.
And crosswalks, I mean, that's just something that's got to be done there. Cooper's Point is a very large neighborhood, and we have an awful lot of kids that are walking to school. And Ainge, it is a very busy street, especially with the maintenance department there. Their trucks are rolling out every morning. With traffic in the neighborhood, it's a pretty unsafe area. And regardless of what they do, if they don't do anything and this doesn't get approved, then we need to look at going in there and doing something with sidewalks, maybe some curb and guttering, but especially some pedestrian crosswalks, because that is an extremely busy area and it's well needed.
The project we designed hopefully would increase the safety of the kids walking from the Coopers Point neighborhood to the school, and also encourage more.
Absolutely.
The school population, it was downsized from 1,100 down to 750. According to the principal, we're growing at 50 students per year at AG Cox. 50 students, additional students per year, so we're on the way back up.
And let me say this, and I'm no engineer. It seems like to me it would make a little better sense to have the crosswalks on the opposite side, because there's very little room between the fence and the road, and then you've got the ditch there. It seems like to me it would be a lot more expensive to put a sidewalk on that side versus flipping that sidewalk and putting it on the side where the houses are already there, because you're only talking about a small section.
Well, the reason is that the ditch cross-section on the east side is really wide, and DOT requirements would make us put the sidewalk on the property owner side of the ditches.
Unless it was curb and gutter.
Yeah, if it was curb and gutter and piped, we probably could just set it, I'm not sure what the requirement is, but some distance from the curb and gutter.
And I'll say this, and I don't mean a hill of beans. I don't know who was on the board back then, but why they didn't make the developer curb and gutter Ain Street makes absolutely no sense to me. There's houses on the right all the way down to the stop sign. There will eventually be houses on the left. It's already halfway. Why the previous board handcuffed us in not making the developer do that makes absolutely no sense.
Certain,
That's my 2 cents. It was long ago. I was probably a teenager running the roads about that time.
I'm not sure about our ability to require curb and gutter on a state street. We may be able to do it, but
When you're looking at it, I'm going to throw up my Board Street also. Look at Board Street also then. Good gracious. That's right
Well, I
there.
did ride down Blunt Street on the way over here tonight, and it looks like there's sidewalk from what I call the old part of A.G. Cox, that entrance on the north end. It comes down and starts there and goes all the way to the baseball field. So really, the only part that's lacking along Blunt Street from the baseball field back towards church would be maybe 100 feet from the old building entrance to Church Street. So it's a really small section that's missing there. We just replaced that piece down there by the gym a couple of months ago, but I think there's a continuous sidewalk from the old building all the way down to the baseball field entrance. The only piece that's missing from Church Street is between the building and Church Street. So that would be a pretty small project.
It's a small area that if we go in and do a little work, it would make that so much safer, so much more eye-pleasing.
Right.
Just a little section.
If you guys would like, we could try to get that put in at the same time we did the handicap ramp there at the baseball field. Like I said,
People don't realize we're ranked for 5 years straight. This is according to the newspaper and Farm Bureau. Farm Bureau says you pay higher insurance rates in Pitt County than any other county in North Carolina, more so than in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, or Wake County, because we lead the state for 5 years straight in the accidents, because we've not, Alan, you put it, ask you about it today, we have not put in the safety features, the number of vehicles we have. We've not done a good job keeping up. And we've not got a fair share. Now, the Greenville Chamber of Commerce, or Pitt Greenville Chamber of Commerce, is going to have a meeting on transportation in January. I asked the board to do it, but we don't have to do it now. Pitt Greenville Chamber of Commerce is going to have a power meeting, luncheon, in January, and talk about our needs in Pitt County. We should not pay higher taxes or higher insurance rates than any other county in North Carolina. We've been trying to get a turn signal light at the intersection of Main Street and Highway 11 for years. Just a simple turn lane, a light we have not gotten. Simple things.
Mr. Travis, you were saying that you would suggest that we do this the same time we do the handicap. Are you?
I think
Is there going to be a
opportunity to just
do it all at one time?
slightly larger project versus having two smaller projects. It might be something.
You're saying the sidewalk on the south side of Blunt?
On the south side of Blunt from the old part of the school to Church Street. It's
100 feet.
Probably 100 feet at most, I would think. I'll double check, but I think we could pretty easily get that done. I don't think there's anything in the way.
That is our street, Blunt.
That is our street,
Yes,
yes,
sir.
sir. Church is a state street. And if we would do that, I would recommend going ahead and installing a handicap ramp at that intersection at that time.
You know about what it would cost? Or there should be a little cost?
I would say 100 feet of sidewalk at $40 a foot. Was that $4,000? And then maybe a grand for that type. That would be a standard handicap ramp. $5,000 roughly.
Should be able to use Power bill.
I'm looking at Travis, I don't know off the top.
Yes.
Yes.
And you might get a little bit better pricing if you do a little bit more work.
I'll make a motion then if we can use the Power bill money. That is you said that is a town street, belong to us, Blunt.
Yes, sir.
That we go ahead and take care of that.
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second to use Power Bill money to do that. Excuse me. This cold has got All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Okay, does that take
Now,
us?
one question I want to ask you, but on state road, we cannot use the power bill money, is that correct?
I don't believe so, but there's so many things that you can and can't use the power bill money for. I'd have to double check that.
think we changed
They
it.
did change the regulations last year where you can do a lot more stuff on state streets, but you're supposed to coordinate with DOT on that. Probably we could, but I would want to double check.
Could you check for me?
I think we can do sidewalks, but again, it would be in coordination with DOT, and they would basically have to approve what our intent would be.
Okay.
Councilman Smith, what would you like for us to do about the Ain Street, since it's your neighborhood?
What?
It's a state road, we're not going to get any DOT help there. My concern is crosswalks and sidewalks to get the kids across safely. I mean, it's not in front of me. Yeah, it's a pure safety issue and an aesthetics issue as far as making that area, it's well-traveled, you go to the ballpark and you can't get a parking space over there. We've got hundreds of folks out there.
So once the
safety
DOT
aspect is the biggest deal.
Once DOT does approves or disapproves it, bring it back to the board here, and then we'll look for approval at that point in time. So
Sure.
let's do it.
That was staff's intent.
If
Okay.
we can get them to pay for it and do a little work, I'm all for it, but let's see what they decide in the spring, and
They seem to be supportive of the project and actually approached us, so hopefully we'll be hearing soon.
Next item I brought up was about property on Chapman Street. We were negotiating at some point in time, a while back. Looks like the Sarah Law Complex deal is not going to happen. What kind of meeting would you have to have about Chapman Street property?
I just need to follow up to see if it's still available. And assuming it is, we will probably we'll find out what needs to happen from there.
Okay.
is that official on the Sarah Law It's not official. We just think that it is.
No. Right.
In the last,
I'm sorry.
Light on Sarah Law real quick. I did speak with their board's president, whose name is slipping away from her at this second, but
Mike Rao.
yeah, Mike Rao, thank you. Mr. Rao did say that he had, expressed that he did know of what had been ongoing between the town and the complex. I don't know, those of you who know, a lot of our interaction had been with Scott, who was their executive director. He's no longer with them. But I did express, the town's continued interest, and he said that if we so chose, that I could go speak, and potentially Terry as well, depending on availability, to their board about the facility and about our interest. And I did say that we would like to do that. He's supposed to follow up with me to let me know when their board meeting is going to be. I have not yet heard from him, but I do plan to follow up with him on that. So no, it is not completely gone, I'll say, but certainly some things have changed.
Well, Mike's the original one who contacted several members of this board to inquire about that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what prompted, I'll say, a change in stance, to be honest with you. I don't know, and I don't want to speculate. But, I do feel that if I could at least go and speak with them, and again, if Terry can go and speak with them as well, it would maybe assure them of what our interest is.
Sounds more like to me they don't know what they want to do.
Well, I could be part of it.
I mean, one minute they want to sell it, the next minute they don't want to sell it, and then they want to sell it. I mean, this is about the second or third time.
Yeah, I mean, certainly
They've
you
come
guys
to
know
the
this has
town.
been years that this has been going on too. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's not just the past 6 months or so.
my concern is I want to move forward with a cultural arts center along Chapman Street if possible. We will have a facility for the seniors, we'll have a gymnasium, and then for cultural arts events.
I believe the proper terminology, according to USDA folks, is a multipurpose
There
facility.
you go, multi-purpose.
Just so we're...
For USDA purposes, for grants, it cannot be a recreation facility. It has to be I'll call it a health center, something related to that. Yeah, wellness, thank you.
That's good.
wellness monies.
We had voted to have an appraisal done on the zone property. Had we moved forward with that or not?
Not completely.
We had not yet, no.
Okay. So we didn't waste any money.
No, we have not wasted any money thus far.
Okay. Okay.
The next one's he's up is the last, is walking trail at Cedar Ridge to Borley Park.
And the property that you're referring to is the property that was recently given to the town by the LLC's name, I cannot remember. Mr. Fagundes was associated with them. Cedar Ridge is 21.48 acres by itself. In order to connect to Boyd Lee, and this is rough, so don't hold me 100% to this. Cedar Ridge to Boyd Lee Park is about 1.14 miles. Again, that's an approximation. Depending upon the surface that we put through there, which depends upon accessibility for ADA standards, and also what we are actually allowed to build through there, because there is some floodplain and there is riparian buffer through there. For an aggregate or stone trail, which is a crushed compressed rock, you're looking at about, again, roughly $91,000 or so. That's for the trail itself. And again, that's a rough approximation. It could be higher than that. It could be lower than that. For an asphalt trail, which is certainly more money, you're looking at about $136,000, or I'll call it $140 for even sake. Now, again, that's just the trail itself. That's not putting in parking or any other facilities related to it. That is simply for a trail in and of itself. And again, that is a rough approximation.
And it would also require easements at the back of the individual
Yes, and that
properties.
would require easements through there. There are, I can tell you how many lots. I wrote it down. I just have to find my note. There are about 15 parcels between the property that we've referenced and Boyd Lee Park's property.
But I assume we would also, does Boyd Lee access include the property we own off of Ashley Meadows?
No, it doesn't, but I believe they connect directly, or there's a few more lots depending upon how you want to connect it. Now, if you wanted to connect the Cedar Ridge property directly to the East Main Ashley Meadows property, that's 25 parcels.
Well, and I would assume if we're going to go as far as a Boyd Lee access, we would want to connect one of our properties to East Main, so we could then incorporate I'm looking at Evan and.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't actually have to, depending upon, again, if this was something Greenville was interested in, you would end up saving money by not doing it, because you'd still have the connection there. So, let Greenville build their section on Boyd Lee, run that to the East Main section, and then run Boyd Lee to Cedar Ridge. At that point, you've cut out about 10 parcels that you don't have to build or clear.
How close is that 15 acres on the west side of Fork Swamp come to Ashley Meadows or Main Street Village?
That property directly, East Main leads directly to that property.
To the 15 acres?
To East Main is 1462, yes, 15 acres. Yes, sir. And, a parking lot, depending upon the kind of parking lot that you put in, and again, it's not something that you have to do all at once. So, for example, if this is something that we were going to move forward with, which I do think is a great idea, and it's something that Terry and I have been talking about some, you don't have to pave a parking lot. You can put crushed gravel in a parking lot, crush and run, something like that. You don't have to necessarily asphalt it first. If you're going to asphalt it, you're adding significantly to the project, in the hundreds of thousands significantly to the project.
But if we start just with the trail and pave the trail, handicap people again, and older people don't do well with rock.
Mm-hmm.
They do not, that does not work well. But it's the only difference between $91,000 and $136,000. And that's what Greenville has done along their Greenway.
Down by the river, yeah.
Winterville River. They've done it for 7 miles, I believe, 7, 8 miles they
Yeah,
have.
something like that.
And that would be a good step for that area of Winterville that we have done nothing for in the area of recreation, for that neighborhood.
Well, and there's a lot that it can link into eventually as well. So, I mean, you're creating for the future there as well. You're not just building that one section. You know, you're looking at, you know, there's a plan done by Pitt County. I don't know if anybody remembers. It's called the Pitt County Greenway Plan 2025. It was done in 2005. And so there's plans for greenways throughout the county. And as a matter of fact, this section is one of the sections of that proposal. So, you know, you're looking at potential for interconnects much beyond Winterville proper.
Should we have a public hearing for the residents along there? Moving forward?
I certainly think that's appropriate at some point, and we can do it as you all consider timing. I think Evan and I probably need to do a little more research into some of the specifics, talk with Keene potentially about making sure we've covered everything we would need to follow through with, but then certainly I think it's appropriate to find out if that's something we can all collectively work toward.
And certainly, there's a lot of permitting to go along with it as well. There are some mini grants. Matter of fact, I was looking at it earlier. Clean Water Management Trust Fund has mini grants for easements. So, I mean, there's stuff out there for things of that nature. But anyway, you know, I mean, there's a number of other grants for trails and things like that.
We know from a Parks and Recreation standpoint, in addition to the planning department's creation of the whole walkable Winterville, that this all ties in nicely to the concept of our community being walkable in its totality as much as possible. Obviously, these things are getting phased in over time, but
Well, we have good news from the depot, the historical, that's going to start this spring. They're moving forward. Everybody got a copy of that email, and therefore we would need to have walking trails to that depot and a park there eventually, too.
I didn't get that email. If someone could forward that to me, that'd be great.
I did leave out one note too, numerical note, I'll call it. That the number that I gave you does not include any engineering costs or anything associated with that. Certainly, there would be a significant amount associated with that.
But again, I think we could try to chat a little bit more about what would be required and then report back to see how the council wants to proceed with a public hearing, public meeting, whatever venue you deem appropriate.
Well, there's also the question, yeah, certainly that, or, you know, depending upon the route that you want to go, whether you want to have an engineering firm do a feasibility study prior to moving forward with something like this. But, you know, that's certainly up to you, the council.
Okay. Does that take care of item F?
No, that's fine, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, item 16 is future agenda items or work sessions. I think we've already.
Cemetery, status of the cemetery,
Status of the...
dump site at the cemetery.
Yes, have been in conversations and actually met with the county manager on more than one occasion. We had a staff level meeting, and so I know that he was going back to his folks and talking about it. So I'm waiting to hear back from him, but we are in contact about that.
Because Councilman Cooper has some good information coming up later on tonight.
Not necessarily related to that specific issue, but yes.
Be covered at the December meeting,
Yes.
December the 8th.
We, just as an update, the cemetery committee's been working in conjunction with Pitt Community on some possible signage, if you will, for both cemeteries, the Fire Tower Road and the Reed Branch Cemetery.
So now we can also cancel Monday night's meeting, right?
No, sir, because you also have Noble Canal discussion on Monday night's meeting. And I may actually ask, since it looks like we're still going to need to meet, to add a couple of quick voting items if Jasmine and I can get the advertisement together for the special meeting.
Can we put it off to another date?
You all can,
The reason I mentioned this, Eugene James is having a, I think I'm named the auditorium commissioners after Mr. James next Monday night. And since he and I were
I got a scheduling conflict too. If we could change it to another date, it would work great for me.
And I plan to be there for he talked across the street from me, his wife was my supervisor, and that came up recently about his naming the facility after him.
Well, you certainly, as the council, can change it.
I would like to ask.
You have another date?
I don't know what the council's timeframes as we get closer to Thanksgiving is, or whether you want to try to do something first part of December.
How about 18th of November, next day?
I can't do the 18th.
Okay.
I can do the 20th, I can do the 24th, 25th.
May I ask Jasmine, when is the next youth council meeting?
That's Mideast.
24.
20th?
No.
20th of November.
Yeah, so the 20th of November, I'm out.
How about the
Yeah,
25th, how about
yes,
Tuesday the
Mideast.
25th?
December 20th.
November
November
25th.
25th, Tuesday.
Not December 25th.
Thank you. Have me worried, boy.
Councilman He thought he said December 25th. That would probably be not many attending that one.
I'm way busy on the 25th.
Yes, you are.
24th of November.
24th
Alan, do you have a
meeting.
meeting on 24th?
Third Monday.
17th.
Okay.
24th.
Anybody?
That's a church board meeting.
Oh. About the 25th.
Well, how much
25th
do
great
you
for
have
me.
to cover with us tonight on the, I mean, if you have everything prepared for us for the canal
Well, I have
report?
sent you all previously in an email where we stand. And it's now time for the council to talk about that and decide where we're going. So yes, I have everything I need and have forwarded it to you all, and I'll tell you the date if you give me just a second.
25th then?
What date did we decide?
25th. I can't get
I'm good
24th.
the 25th.
25th?
What day is that on?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. How about 25th?
That'll be fine.
Jasmine, nothing scheduled for that night?
Right.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, 25th.
Would the council be amenable to me adding a couple of quick voting items as well? And we'll act, bless you.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, at 6?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
6, okay.
You mean on that night?
Yes, sir.
Fine.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else before we move on to?
I've got a couple items under my report, but
Now, I've received a couple calls about the traffic still on, what's the name of the street? Man, I get streets. Right on Jones Street. Talk like that. There's a lot of traffic, still speeding traffic up and down that street. Very noisy. Very, very noisy.
the traffic's, I just want to be clear.
Well, the traffic is one problem, then noise, loud noise.
Put a camera,
Pardon me?
can we put a camera on that street?
We need to do something. We have placed speed bumps on it, and it's slowing down a little bit, but sound like to me it has picked up again.
Chief.
Chief, yeah.
Camera, up the street.
They began to be very noisy, very noisy, the understanding I'm getting from the citizen in the area, and they'd like for us to do something about it as a board. Again, it has quieted down for a period, and it's began to surface again. So, then we probably need to add on another speed bump. I mean, I don't know. Or, and,
Another speed bump. We do have directed patrols on Jones Street as much as our officers can be in that area when they're not actively engaged in calls. I have the same thing on Gale. There's a Jeep that I know does not have a muffler, and it is horrible. I just haven't been able to catch him or have one of my officers catch him yet. But you know, the issue is if the officer doesn't actually hear and see the violation, it's very hard to cite them for that. So that's the biggest obstacle, is to actually see the violation and actually be able to enforce it as it's happening. Same with a dog or any other kind of nuisance noise ordinance that we might observe. We have to observe that action actually happening.
Can you give a report at the next meeting on the amount of time Jones Street is patrolled?
Sure.
Because we have the GPS units that we should be able to give you actual information.
okay. And also, if someone reports something, if they call in 911 and report it at the sheriff department, do they ask for the caller who reports the incident name and information?
The caller can decide not to disclose that. They can make themselves anonymous if they would like. The sheriff's office will probably prompt them for that information, and the caller can request that it be an anonymous call.
And when the officer responds to the call, and if they need to contact the person who made the 911 call or submitted the call to the sheriff department, do they need to know who that person that submitted the call?
No, usually the officer asks, does the caller want contact? And the sheriff's office will say yes or no.
But yes, Mr. Moore, they do ask for your name and number. The incident that happened to me last spring, they ask for your name and number, and it is disclosed to the officer that responds to a call.
So it has to,
If you give it, they give it to the person that responds.
If you don't give it, though.
Yeah, but if you call and it's a problem,
Unless you ask them not to, they wouldn't know not to give that information to the officer.
then the officer wouldn't know how to follow up on the response call then, right?
Well, the officer would
But they don't know who to contact of the problem that they are having.
That's right, if that information is not given. They would patrol the area and the description of the vehicle and the complaint, they would explore that and investigate that, and if there was no caller information, once they either confirmed or denied that they could actually locate the violation, then their response is basically over.
So if the caller requested that name not be given, the caller would never know what the police officer answering the call did.
Yeah.
but in most
He
cases,
may think in his mind that nothing was done when actually something was done.
but I think that if I'm making a call and I feel like, I want to let the officer know that it's a legitimate call, I don't mind giving my name and number. Because I realize that I don't want the police officer to think that I'm doing a prank call. So I may give my name and number. And of course, now with all the technology, they got your phone number, they got your address, and they got your name in most cases. So it's impossible to be truly anonymous when you make a phone call, especially from your home phone.
On the mobile patrol app that I briefed last council meeting, you could actually send in a complaint where you could describe maybe a type of vehicle, the activity that vehicle is participating in, whether it's loud music, and then the officer can be on the lookout for that, maybe even not at the same time as the call, but that violator is going to do the same thing tomorrow and the next day.
I can recall, I think when we was doing our budget meeting, we were doing budget, and I think that someone was complaining about we were having one citizen that was continuously causing problems to the neighborhood in certain neighborhoods. But I haven't heard anything on it in quite a while, and it sounded like to me that problem has been taken care of. Is that correct, for as you know?
He did. That individual ended up being shortly thereafter arrested, and they couldn't make bond for a very long time. And I think now they've actually got some help and the proper medications, and I don't think he's still incarcerated. But
I know our town attorney was instrumental in contacting the family and trying to work on that item, so.
Right. And I think there's a reason why I'm asking that. I think that we had another situation not too long ago that a person was in the street. He just out in the street just wandering, like he was completely lost, and they made the call to 911 to the sheriff's department, and they responded with one of our officers, but we couldn't do anything because he wasn't doing anything no more than just being out in the street. But when someone just being, it's not a pest, but just seem like they're kind of out of place. Can we do anything about that? Just...
We can influence, for the most part, the answer to your question is no until they violate the law in some way, but we can influence. Most of the time when we show up, people don't like to be around the officers that are trying to get in their space and find out why they're doing certain things, and usually that prompts them to move along and not stay in that location. And sometimes we just stand there and hold conversations with them, and at some point they move on.
Sometime.
Those are delicate calls.
So the bottom line is there's nothing we can do unless they break the law, basically.
Or a town ordinance. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
And it might be that we would ask if our officers were going to contact someone who called in something, say like, about a year or so ago when I called in that they were cussing, fighting on the corner, that if they're going to contact that person, that they would do it by phone rather than by door.
Yes, ma'am, you can. We have a lot of calls where officers actually call the complaint.
Because I think that's
going to the door.
Because by going to the door, it's actually a physical thing, and the person could see it. We're talking about retaliation or whatever, whereas the person who made the call is just trying to maintain the sanctity of the community.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone from staff would like to offer any comments or whatever? If they would, just come forward.
Good evening again. No report, more question. I can't remember if it was last month or the month prior. You all selected a new date for the Christmas tree lighting ceremony being December 4th. That was brought to my attention that December 4th is the final ECU home football game. I did, and I wanted to bring it to you guys. I sent an email, and some of you all had asked that we bring it to the council at this meeting, so I'm doing so. Does the council choose, or does the council at their pleasure decide to leave at December 4th or on December 4th, which was the date that you all selected at the last meeting, or would you like to change it? The traditional date, the historical date, if you will, has been December, I think, 11th this year, which is the second Thursday in December. If you all would like to leave it on December 4th, we're fine with that. If you want to change to December 11th, we're fine with that as well. We have started preparing for the 4th, but changing to the 11th is a phone call.
I believe it's in the newsletter that went out with the utility bills. It
is.
It is.
It was already sent out at that point, yes.
Okay.
It's sort of a nuance because usually ECU doesn't play that late in the calendar year, but
Yeah, and the new conference, matter of fact, I heard on the radio the other day, they said the new conference has really thrown out a lot out of whack as far as scheduling. You probably noticed, for anybody who follows ECU football, that they've played many Thursday night games, and that's out of the norm as well. So typically their last home football game is usually around Thanksgiving. While Thanksgiving is late, it's still a week earlier, but with the conference change, obviously there's new schedule standards.
I had a couple of people tell me that I'll definitely be there on the 4th, but that's whatever council decides.
I mean, I'll say this much, anybody who we've contacted to try to schedule things hasn't said anything about not being able to make it. But again, that's not the general public, that's just people that we're contacting to come to the event for show purposes, I'll call it.
6.
Yes, 6 in the game, I believe, starts at 7:30.
not that the council needs reminding, but you all did vote to wait and turn on all of the holiday lights on the 4th instead of right after Thanksgiving. So I just wanted to mention that in case you do change the date. We would have to back up, regroup on that. But otherwise, all lights go on the tree lighting
Yes, the
ceremony.
4th, that's correct.
I say let it stay, since it's gone out. I mean, it's a little too far out for us to change it.
Does it stay? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We just wanted to double check.
Sounds good, thank you.
I got one question. How can we stay abreast of, changes that we have, of information that need to be, we come up with something or idea that, and we ask your staff to go out and, find something for us, and we get the information back. I received some information tonight that I thought maybe that we all should be aware of it.
Insofar as, are you talking about the Christmas tree lighting ceremony?
The property.
Which property?
The one we've been discussing.
Yes. Why we not update on that?
I wasn't prepared to discuss that this evening.
Oh,
so
okay.
It was out and discussed before.
I was wondering because, I was very much concerned about that because I know I have not been updated on that. And
It's a relatively,
And if I can just jump into, as far as I'm concerned, and I think Terry would agree, it's not completely off the table. So, I didn't feel it was prudent to bring it to you all until we felt that it was a done deal.
Well, if there is any changes, I think, do we need to at least stay abreast of what's going on? If there is a possibility,
and I
an
think
update.
Yes, sir, and I think Evan and I didn't have enough information. It had all been conjecture up until, well, it still is.
Yes, it's so, and that's why, I made the comment about it not being set in stone yet. As far as what we've done thus far is still in place, and, like I said, we're going to go to meet with their board. So, until we meet with their board, we don't know if there is in actuality a change in their official stance or not.
We don't have it. I guess my answer to the question is we were waiting for something official to pass along, and I think I'm hearing you say you want to be notified even if it's not official,
Exactly.
and we'll do our best.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Counselor?
I have no report. Just to remind everybody, tomorrow is Veterans Day. I think Mr. Moore may be talking about that in the ceremony we have. It's a good day to fly the flag and remember what it's all about. If you know a veteran, say thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Tomorrow, 2 o'clock, and Chief Will Height will be our guest speaker. He's going to entertain us for about an hour and a half, he told me.
That's fabulous. We're looking forward to that.
And moving up, our Tim Sutton Trio will be singing a couple of songs. The mayor will be there to say a few comments. South Central people will be there to the flag ceremony. Reverend Turnage will be the invocation and the ending prayer for us. We try to mix up every year, and I'm glad that, I hope the rain will hold off. Otherwise, it will be inside, hopefully inside the community building. This is our 15th year. Second, Committee's Commission meeting last week had a good turnout. Enjoyed going to it. And thank goodness my fellow seatmate is a member of the Committee's Commission. My favorite person.
Yeah.
Councilman Moore, the ceremony tomorrow is at 2?
2 o'clock, I'm sorry, 2 o'clock.
I just want to be sure.
But Committee's Commission, we did find something else you probably report on later on. It was interesting. I also like to comment on recreation. I went out there and I could not believe how many people were part of the Halloween event. I didn't go through. I was too scared. The line was too long also. I was scared. It was a long line, but you had a great crowd.
They had about 450, that's paying alone, and so the young children get in free. So, I mean, it was, you figure, adding that on, you probably had at least 500.
And the crowd was wonderful. They really were good. Thank you. That's all.
Robinson?
Well, I did attend the Middy's regional meeting last week with Mr. Moore, and it was really interesting. It was a good meeting. I think that a lot of us saw some of the things that they have to offer to us, and I just hope that we as a town will access their services. I did notice that USDA is meeting in Greenville tomorrow, and it talks about increased economic opportunities. I don't know if this would be something that would be, that would apply to us. I know USDA has changed some of its funding, but I would, it's on Wednesday at 10:30 in the Greenville City Council room.
Website. Access to website. I didn't mention that.
Oh, yeah.
They have a website you can go to.
She already has passed on.
I think you have to have the password. I didn't have the password, so I couldn't access their website.
You talking about the grant finder? I think Terry
Yes,
already
I do.
has
I
it.
have that.
Okay.
He gave it
Pass
to
that
me
along.
last
Right.
spring, I think. And that could be, I hope we can find some ways to get some services for the money we're putting in.
There's also a fund we found out about. There was money available to stay with people short-term, who are elderly people, or who had handicapped. There is some money available for that.
Respite care.
Right. And,
I think we were told at our housing forum that there wasn't.
right.
But that was said in an open forum in a big room, that there is money available, so that
We'll get
would
some more information on
help
that.
some of our families. I know that you and Jasmine see that a lot of people coming up asking for assistance.
Right. And we'll try to get some more info and have that available to pass along.
That's it.
I would just like to salute and thank our veterans. Freedom is not free, and it never will be. Thank you.
Very good. I'd just like to ask the our town manager what the status is on the repair of the names.
On our urgent repair program?
Yes, the 3 names that I turned in.
There are more than 3 applications.
Well, I'm talking about the ones I turned in.
I understand, but those applications were not turned in at that time. So we, I think, have about 6.
You got about 6.
And we're currently going through, looking at them and see, at least 2 have way more need than we would be able to fund under actually 1 needs a replacement.
Okay.
So we're trying to figure out how to service that particular person help, but know that they need way more help than our program or some of the other local programs will be able to give. So we're trying to figure out how to coordinate with other funding agencies to see how far we can stretch the dollar.
So 4 of them, it meets the requirements, the criteria that we have on our applicants.
Initially to accept the application. I will remind everyone again, the age is 62 or older. So for those folks who have come and applied who were younger than 62 and had the other criteria, we have not accepted their application.
Okay, when are we going to start making a decision on the
Once we
applicants?
have applicable applicants to bring you, and we are ready to move forward to have you decide on moving, on approving those. It should be within the next couple of months, but it probably will not be until January.
Because, and the reason I ask, I think that we have a little over 30,000 available.
We have this, between last budget year that was put in the fund and this budget year, it'll be 40.
Be 40. And so we have 4 that you know of at this time.
We have people who have turned in applications and that met the initial criteria. They have to be homeowners, they have to, but in terms of going through all of the credit and income verification, that's all ongoing now. So you get in the door based off of our initial criteria, and then you have to get into the detailed, I'll call it income verification, et cetera, that takes longer.
So the guidelines that we have, do you have a list of that guidelines? Because I never received one of those, or the qualification.
You all approved that, so you did receive it at your, I'll be glad to get it to you again.
Yeah, would you please?
Sure, of course.
Okay, and you say the earliest will be in January.
Yes, at the earliest, to bring forward homeowners for your consideration.
And it's still, what, up to $6,000 per?
$5,400.
$5,400 per household?
Per
applicant.
Correct.
Okay, and one other one, Helen Bridges.
Again, and I'll be glad to talk to you after the meeting, in terms of specific households, there are some that far exceed our ability to help just with this program. That particular property is what I'm talking about. So there's going to have to be a coordinated effort to even begin to meet the need.
Oh, and we're working on that.
Yes. Yes, and technically that property needs a replacement, but that's probably not going to be able to happen immediately. So we were going to have to coordinate with other agencies to see how far we can stretch a dollar.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes, it makes sense. But in the meantime, what do we need to do with her situation? Just wait on it because...
We'll have to, because again, when I say we'll have to, I want to be able to bring you a report on what we would be able to do, but again, it would be a very small piece. So without some additional assistance, you have to look at how, not that we shouldn't do our part, but there'll still be a great deal of need that's left that we won't be able to address through our program.
Would the Grifton Baptist Association with the helpless men?
I'm not even sure that they're doing it anymore. They had a large changeover in folks that were working with them, so I'd have to check, find out if they're still active.
Could we put an advertisement in our newsletter if there are volunteers who would like to work on projects like this?
Oh, I certainly think that we could see what organizations or individuals, that potentially would be available for such a project. But again, we have material costs and, so it's definitely going to take more.
I knew a couple of guys at one time when they retired, they became plumbers. They were certified plumbers, and they spent a few years fixing people's plumbing.
Well, that's great.
One of them was 80 years old at the time. He did it for about 5 years, 2 to 5 years.
Does that...
I know there's some urgencies, and I know that we're not in that business completely, but there is a great need for an elderly person that lives in our town, over 90-some years of age, that used to own a very prominent business here in our town for many, many years, and she definitely needs some help.
Well, and that's just it. She needs way
Yeah.
in excess of what our program is constructed for. That's why it's going to take more than what we'd be able to do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just an important reminder that November the 20th is the Youth Council meeting. Our president, Josh, sitting back here, he attends all of our meetings, so it would behoove this board to attend their meetings. That they're doing in my opinion, some very important work. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
just echo Mr. Moore's comments about tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Invite everybody to show up for the veterans.
All the veterans. Each veteran there will have an opportunity to speak.
Ms. Parker.
Okay, so I would like to, and I don't have an overhead for the audience to see, but I'd like to update you on some of the downtown, I'll call it beautification efforts we've been undertaking, and I wanted to pass out the final proof copies for the town's wayfinding signs, and you'll see the locations of these signs. I'd like to thank Amy Barrow and Stephen Penn for helping us work on these. I believe there are 12 or 13 signs that we've ordered that are in the process now of being made. These will be located throughout town to direct people coming into town from the various entryways where things like the downtown, town offices, both of our parks, the post office, a couple of our historic sites. You may have seen some of these wayfinding signs. Obviously, Greenville has some. Aden has some. Ours are a little more contemporary looking, like Greenville's. They don't look like Greenville's, but they're not historic looking in nature, but we're excited about those, and they're being made as we speak. So I'd also, if I could ask maybe Anthony and Evan to help me out, I'd like to show you, if y'all would hold my banners for me, I'd like to show you the banners that we will be, we've received 15, we've ordered 30. We did it with town monies, and we received $5,000 from the Development Commission to purchase these that will go through our downtown and town area. This is one of them.
Now, these will be mounted on
Light poles with Mervin's assistance. And then this is a proof, this is not a final, of the other look. The 15 of these are in, the 15 of these are being made, and they will be placed throughout our town. And I hope you all like them.
Yes.
Beautiful.
So we're excited about that, and know that that's part of our strategic plan for economic development that we discussed and that we thought was important. It's a small touch in terms of the overall need, but it certainly, and these guys look great holding new banners. But we think it'll certainly give us an uplift. We are also looking at our entry signs that currently exist, one on either side of town, and the one that's located at Pitt Community College location needs a little bit of work. So I know that we're working potentially with PCC in the near future, and Willie Gay is also helping to try to look at how we can, that it needs some tender love and care. So we're looking at that as well.
Still no crosswalk from Pitt Community to the other side of the road.
There's
Safety
safety
places.
Y'all said until we adjourn. Just kidding.
Stand there and hold it until in the morning.
Myers falling asleep.
Thank you for holding them, and I hope you
Yeah,
all are
it
as
looked
excited
nice.
as we are about
It really looked nice.
displaying these.
Very exciting.
I know y'all been hearing about it, so I wanted to show that we've actually got them here. Guys, thank you. So, as soon as we get the 15 in and our signs will be here, I know Travis and Mervin are just thrilled about helping me get them up, and we'll get them up and get them displayed. I'm sure there's some other things that I need to update you on, probably several. Noble Canal, Councilman Moy, I sent an email out about, Travis had met with the state. I sent that out on July 29th, the status of where things are, and it's going to require council vote and discussion on moving forward about where we go from here. So I can resend that to make sure everybody has it, and would ask that you review it prior to our workshop that we've changed the meeting on, that's coming up soon. Want everyone to have a wonderful Veterans Day. Thank you to the veterans. We couldn't do it without what they've done for us and continue to do for us. And with that said, I'm done.
Okay, did we have a closed session?
No, sir.
Okay.
Do you want one? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I don't.
I'm teasing.
Hearing that, do I hear a motion we adjourn?
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries.